Life will break you down if you let it. Setbacks will pile up. Dreams will feel out of reach. You'll want to quit. But here's the truth. Giving up is the easy way out. It takes no strength, no courage, no resilience. What takes real strength is standing back up when life knocks you flat. The Stoics understood this. They knew suffering wasn't the enemy. Our reaction to it was. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Pain is inevitable. Frustration, failure, and disappointment, they're coming whether you like it or not. But your mindset, that's yours to control. You either let hardship break you or you use it as fuel. Every setback is a test, a chance to sharpen yourself. You don't push through because it's easy. You push through because the alternative is stagnation. Right now you have a choice. Stay down or rise up. You are stronger than you think, tougher than you feel. So fight, adjust, move forward. And remember, the obstacle isn't blocking your path, it is the path. Now, are you going to let it stop you, or are you going to push through? Don't just sit there waiting for things to change. Make them change. Get up. Take the next step, no matter how small. Shift your mindset from "I can't" to "I must." Embrace the struggle, because that's where growth happens. Hit subscribe if you're ready to stop making excuses and start taking action. Drop a comment on what you're pushing through right now, because this isn't just motivation, it's a movement. Now go, face the challenge, and push through. Let's get started. Number 1, no one is coming to save you. Let's talk about one of the hardest truths most people refuse to accept. No one is coming to save you. No mentor is about to swoop in with the perfect advice. No friend is going to drag you out of bed and make sure you chase your goals. No magical opportunity is going to land in your lap just because you deserve it. If you're sitting around waiting for a sign, for someone to believe in you, or for life to somehow rearrange itself in your favor, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. The world does not work that way. We've been fed this fantasy since childhood. The idea that if we struggle long enough, someone will see our pain and pull us out of it. That's what happens in movies. The underdog gets discovered, the lost soul finds a mentor, the person drowning in hardship gets rescued at the last moment. But in real life, nobody is watching. Nobody is coming. And that's not meant to depress you, it's meant to wake you up. Because the moment you fully accept that your life is in your hands, you stop waiting. You stop hoping that circumstances will change, and you start changing them yourself. I used to be stuck in this mindset. I told myself that if I just worked hard enough, if I was patient enough, someone would eventually recognize my potential and give me my big break. I convinced myself that things would work out if I just kept waiting for the right moment. I was waiting for a job offer to magically appear. I was waiting for someone to notice my talent and invest in me. I was waiting for the right conditions, the right mindset, the right feeling, before I took action. And you know what happened? Nothing. Because waiting is passive. It tricks you into believing you're being patient, when in reality, you're just avoiding responsibility. Then one day it hit me. I was the problem. No one was stopping me except me. I wasn't taking action because deep down, I was scared. Scared of failure, scared of rejection, scared of not being ready. The harsh truth is that most people don't need to be saved. They need to take responsibility. They need to stop looking for shortcuts, stop waiting for approval, and stop hoping that someone else will do the hard work for them. It sounds harsh, but the people you expect to help you, they have their own problems. Your family loves you, but they can't live your life for you. Your friends support you, but they're busy fighting their own battles. Even your mentors, the ones who give you great advice, aren't going to hold your hand through every decision. And if someone did come to save you, it wouldn't work. Because real change, real growth, doesn't come from being rescued. It comes from struggle, from figuring things out on your own, from learning how to stand on your own 2 feet. Think about the people you admire, the successful, the disciplined, the ones who seem unstoppable. Did they get there because someone saved them? Or did they build themselves from the ground up through relentless effort and self-reliance? When you stop expecting someone else to solve your problems, you take full ownership of your life. And when you take full ownership, everything changes. So how do you actually apply this? Stop waiting for permission. No one is going to tell you it's time to start. No one is going to give you the perfect conditions. You have to create them yourself. Take action even when you don't feel ready. You won't feel ready, ever. Stop waiting to feel motivated and just take the next small step. Accept full responsibility. Where you are right now is a direct result of the choices you've made. That might sting, but it also means you have the power to change it. Become the person you would want to save you. Imagine if the version of you 5 years from now could go back in time and rescue you. What would that person tell you to do today? Understand that action creates clarity. Most people don't start because they don't have a clear path. But the truth is, clarity comes from action. The more you move forward, the clearer things become. Forward, the clearer things become. Here's the beautiful part. If no one is coming to save you, then no one is stopping you either. There are no gatekeepers. No one is standing in your way except the excuses you keep telling yourself. This is your life. No one else is responsible for making it great. So what are you going to do? Sit around hoping for a miracle or take control and become your own damn hero. Number 2, stop romanticizing the quitter's life. Let's talk about something nobody likes to admit. Quitting feels good at first. There's something intoxicating about throwing in the towel. It's a seductive fantasy. The idea of saying, screw this, I'm out, and walking away from responsibilities, stress, and pressure. Quitting lets you escape. It gives you an instant dopamine hit, and for a brief moment, you feel free. That's why so many people daydream about disappearing, moving to a remote cabin in the woods, deleting social media, and ghosting everyone, dropping out of school, quitting their job, or just checking out of life entirely. The idea of quitting is sold to us as this romantic, rebellious act of self-care. And sure, sometimes stepping away is necessary. Sometimes walking away from toxic situations is the right move. But that's not what most people are doing. Most people aren't quitting for their well-being. They're quitting because it's easier than facing the discomfort of pushing through. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. Quitting doesn't actually make life easier. It just trades one type of suffering for another. I've been there. I've fantasized about quitting everything. I've stared at my laptop in the middle of an overwhelming workload, thinking, what if I just walked away from this and never came back? I've sat in my car before an important meeting, wondering, what if I just didn't show up? I've been in the middle of tough projects, relationships, or workouts where my brain whispered, just stop. No one's forcing you to do this. And for a split second, quitting always seemed like the easiest, most peaceful choice. But then I actually did quit a few things in the past, things I knew deep down I shouldn't have given up on. And you know what happened? That initial relief, that freedom, it disappeared fast. Instead of feeling relieved, I felt ashamed. Instead of feeling free, I felt stuck. Instead of solving my problems, quitting just postponed them. Because here's what they don't tell you about quitting. The pain of regret is far worse than the pain of perseverance. People glorify quitting because they focus on short-term relief, not long-term consequences. Quitting lets you avoid discomfort. Quitting gives you an excuse. Quitting removes the pressure. But quitting also kills momentum. Every time you quit, you train yourself to stop when things get hard. It reinforces weakness. The more you quit, the easier it gets, and not in a good way. Quitting leaves you with what if. Every time you quit something important, you wonder what could have been. And worst of all, quitting often doesn't change your situation. If you quit your job because it's hard, you'll probably struggle in the next one too. If you quit your business because it's not growing fast enough, you'll likely do the same with your next idea. If you quit a workout plan because it's painful, guess what? Every new plan will be painful too. The hard things don't go away just because you quit. They just follow you into the next chapter. Here's the unpopular truth. The things you want most in life, success, confidence, discipline, financial freedom, strong relationships, all require suffering. There is no easy path. You can suffer now by pushing through obstacles, or you can suffer later by dealing with regret. I've met people who quit everything they start. They quit school, they quit jobs, they quit relationships, they quit workouts, and they think they're making life easier. But they're not. They're just building a track record of giving up. And years later, they look around and wonder why nothing in their life has changed. Because quitting doesn't remove the pain, it just delays it. Expect the struggle. The sooner you accept that everything worth having is hard, the less quitting will seem like an option. Think long-term, not short-term. Will quitting feel good today? Probably. Will it feel good a year from now? Probably not. Remember your why. The reason you started something is always more important than the reason you want to quit. Reframe failure. Struggling doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're growing. Give yourself time before making decisions. If you feel like quitting, wait 48 hours. Most of the time, the urge to quit is just a temporary reaction to stress. If you quit something that genuinely isn't serving you, fine, walk away. But if you're quitting just because it's hard, because it's uncomfortable, because it's taking longer than expected, you are only robbing your future self. Because while you're quitting, someone else is pushing through. While you're quitting, someone else is building resilience. While you're quitting, someone else is leveling up. So next time you feel tempted to quit, ask yourself, am I quitting because it's the right decision or because it's the easy decision? Because the easy road never leads anywhere worth going. Number 3, feel the feels, but keep moving. Let's get real for a second. Some days life sucks. You wake up feeling like a failure. You're overwhelmed, exhausted, and questioning everything. And the worst part, you can't even explain why. Society loves to shove toxic positivity down our throats. Just think happy thoughts. Manifest good vibes only. Don't let anything get to you. But let's be honest, that's complete nonsense. Sometimes life punches you in the face, and when that happens, trying to pretend you're fine doesn't help. Suppressing emotions doesn't make them disappear. In fact, it usually makes things worse. But here's where most people mess up. They let their feelings dictate their actions. They feel sad, so they stop showing up. They feel anxious, so they procrastinate. They feel unmotivated, so they quit. They tell themselves, I'll start when I feel better. But that's a trap. Because if you wait to feel good before you take action, you'll be waiting forever. The key to pushing through? Feel everything, but keep moving anyway. I used to believe that my emotions were facts. If I felt unworthy, I must be unworthy. If I felt like a failure, I must be failing. If I felt like giving up, that must mean I should. But that's not how reality works. Emotions are like weather. Some days are sunny, some are stormy, and some feel like a full-blown hurricane. But just like the weather, your emotions will pass. The mistake most people make is treating temporary feelings like permanent truths. They say things like, I feel unmotivated, so maybe I'm not meant to do this. I feel anxious, so I should wait until I'm in a better place. I feel exhausted, so maybe this isn't the right path for me. But emotions are not instructions. Just because you feel like quitting doesn't mean you should. Just because you feel lost doesn't mean you are. If I had quit every time I felt like quitting, I wouldn't have accomplished anything. Because the reality is, some of my biggest breakthroughs happened on the days I felt the worst. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we need to feel ready before we take action. That if we're struggling emotionally, we should press pause. But think about this. Do you wait until you feel strong before going to the gym? Do you wait until you feel smart before studying? Do you wait until you feel motivated before working hard? Of course not, because action creates emotion, not the other way around. Some of my most productive days started with me feeling like absolute garbage. But I forced myself to take the first step, just one tiny action. Suddenly, my energy shifted. The work started flowing, the motivation kicked in, and by the end of the day, I was in a completely different mental space. This is what most people don't realize. You don't need to feel good to move forward, but moving forward will eventually make you feel good. Let yourself feel without guilt. Stop shaming yourself for being human. Sadness, frustration, fear, and anger are all normal. Ignoring them won't make them go away. Separate feelings from facts. Feeling like a failure doesn't mean you are one. Feeling unmotivated doesn't mean you can't get things done. Question your emotions instead of obeying them. Take action first. Feeling second. Start small. Move forward in tiny ways even when you don't want to. If you wait to feel ready, you'll never start. Create momentum, not motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Momentum, on the other hand, is unstoppable. Do one thing, anything that moves you forward. That's how you shift your mindset. Remember that emotions are temporary. No feeling lasts forever, not sadness, not doubt, not even rock-bottom despair. The only thing that keeps you stuck is believing that your emotions define you. Life is messy. You will have days where you feel lost, uninspired, and completely over it. You will have moments where you wonder if you're even on the right path. And that's okay. But quitting just because you feel bad? That's not okay. Because while you're sitting in your feelings, waiting for motivation to magically appear, someone else is pushing through their bad days and building the life you want. The difference between success and failure isn't intelligence, talent, or luck. It's who keeps going when it sucks. So feel the feels. Let yourself be angry, sad, frustrated, or exhausted. But don't let it stop you. Because the people who win in life, they aren't the ones who always feel good. They're the ones who keep moving, no matter what. Number 4, find someone worse off than you and help them. All right, let's be brutally honest. When life feels like it's falling apart, the last thing you probably want to hear is, go help someone else. You're drowning in your own problems. You're exhausted. You can barely take care of yourself, let alone somebody else. So why in the world would helping someone worse off than you actually make things better? Because self-pity is a prison. The more you sit in your own misery, the more trapped you become. The more you obsess over your problems, the bigger they feel. But the second you shift your focus to someone else's struggle, your own problems shrink. And here's the part no one talks about. Helping others is the fastest way to help yourself. Not meditation, not journaling, not even therapy. As powerful as those things are, if you really want to snap out of your mental fog and stop feeling stuck, go help someone who has it worse than you. Let me tell you a hard truth. You are not the only person suffering. I say this with love, but most people, myself included, get trapped in this self-centered mindset where we think, no one understands my pain. No one else has it this bad. I'm alone in this. But step outside your bubble for 5 minutes and reality will slap you in the face. That thing you're struggling with? Millions of people have survived worse. That heartbreak you think you'll never recover from? Someone else lost their entire family and kept going? That financial stress that's keeping you up at night? Someone else is wondering where their next meal is coming from. This isn't about minimizing your pain. Your struggles are real. Your emotions are valid. But perspective is powerful. And the moment you shift your focus from, why is my life so hard, to who else is struggling and how can I help, everything changes. I learned this lesson the hard way. There was a period in my life where I was completely stuck. I felt lost, unmotivated, and sick of everything. My goals felt impossible. My problems felt overwhelming. And worst of all, I felt alone. One day, a friend casually mentioned that a local shelter needed volunteers. At first, I dismissed it. I don't have time for that. I can barely handle my own life. But something in me snapped. Maybe I was desperate for a distraction. Maybe I was tired of feeling sorry for myself. Either way, I showed up, and that one decision changed everything. I met people who had nothing, people who had lost their homes, their families, their sense of security. And yet somehow they still smiled. They still laughed. They still had hope. It hit me like a truck. What the hell was I complaining about? My problems didn't disappear that day, but my perspective shifted. Instead of feeling powerless, I felt useful. Instead of drowning in my own misery, I was actually making a difference, even in a small way. That experience rewired something in me. And since then, every time I start spiraling into self-pity, I force myself to get out of my own head and help someone else. Why this works? It interrupts your self-pity loop. When you're focused on someone else's problems, you spend less time obsessing over your own. It gives you instant purpose. Feeling lost? Directionless? Go be useful to someone. Even the smallest act of kindness makes a difference. It reminds you how strong you actually are. You think you're at rock bottom, but you still have something to give. That's proof that you're not as helpless as you feel. It creates momentum. When you help someone, you feel good. When you feel good, you take more action. And before you know it, you've pulled yourself out of your slump. Look, I get it. When you're struggling, the idea of helping others sounds exhausting. But you don't have to be some superhero. You don't have to start a charity or dedicate your life to service. Just start small. Call someone who's struggling. Even if you don't have the answers, just listening can change someone's day. Buy a meal for someone in need. Next time you grab food, pick up an extra meal for a homeless person. Share your knowledge. If you've overcome something, help someone else do the same. Volunteer for an hour. Just 1 hour. You'd be shocked how much it shifts your mindset. Be kind. Sometimes just offering a little patience, a compliment, or a smile can change someone's entire day. And if you think, I have nothing to give, you're wrong. You always have something to offer. Your time, your energy, your encouragement. These things are priceless. At the end of the day, you have 2 choices. 1, sit in your own misery, waiting for someone to save you. 2, step outside of yourself and help someone else. One of these choices keeps you trapped. The other sets you free. So the next time you feel like giving up, don't focus on how hard your life is. Instead, ask yourself, who can I help today? Because sometimes the best way to pull yourself out of darkness is to be the light for someone else. Number 5, change your environment. People love to believe that success is all about sheer willpower, that if you just try harder and stay disciplined, you'll eventually break through. But here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Your willpower is not stronger than your environment. You can have all the motivation in the world, but if you're constantly surrounded by distractions, negativity, and mediocrity, you are fighting an uphill battle that you will eventually lose. Your environment is either setting you up for success or dragging you down into failure. There is no neutral ground. And yet most people refuse to acknowledge this. They sit in the same toxic spaces, surround themselves with the same uninspiring people, expose their minds to the same garbage content, and then wonder why they feel stuck. You are not just a product of your choices, you are a product of what surrounds you every single day. If you've ever spent time around a group of highly driven people, you've probably noticed something. You start thinking bigger. You feel guilty about wasting time. You get motivated to push yourself. And if you've ever spent time around people who complain about everything, you've noticed the opposite. You start complaining too. Your energy feels drained. You lower your standards without realizing it. Your mind is always adapting to what it's exposed to. The thoughts you have, the habits you build, and the goals you set are all being influenced by what's around you. So if you're struggling to break through, the question you need to ask is not, how do I become more disciplined? But rather, how do I create an environment where success is inevitable? For the longest time, I thought my lack of progress was a motivation problem. I thought maybe I just wasn't wired for success the way others were. But then I took a step back and looked at my daily surroundings. I was waking up in a cluttered, chaotic space. I was starting my mornings by scrolling through my phone, filling my brain with useless content before I even got out of bed. I was spending time with people who had zero ambition and looked down on anyone trying to improve themselves. And I wondered why I felt stuck. One day I decided to experiment. Instead of working from my usual spot, I packed up my things and went to a quiet cafe. No distractions, no mindless scrolling, just pure focus. That one small change completely shifted my productivity. It made me realize something obvious. I didn't need more willpower. I needed to stop sabotaging myself with a terrible environment. From that point forward, I became ruthless about curating my surroundings. I cleaned my space, limited my time with negative people, and started consuming content that actually pushed me to grow, and everything changed. Small changes can make a big difference. You don't need to uproot your entire life to create a better environment. Small changes can make an immediate difference. Fix your physical space. Your external environment affects your internal state more than you realize. Clean your room, desk, or workspace. A cluttered space creates a cluttered mind. Separate work from relaxation. If you work where you sleep, your brain will struggle to focus. Go somewhere new. Sometimes a simple change of scenery, like working from a library or cafe, can reset your brain. Upgrade your social circle. You are heavily influenced by the people around you, whether you realize it or not. Spend time with people who challenge you, not those who drain you. If your friends mock ambition, find new friends. You don't have to cut people off completely, but you do have to control how much access they have to you. Be ruthless about what you consume. Your mind is being programmed every day by the content you consume. Choose wisely. Unfollow social media accounts that add no real value to your life. Replace entertainment with education. Listen to podcasts, read books, and watch content that helps you grow. Stop feeding your mind with negativity. What you consume shapes how you think. Make leaving an option. If your job, city, or living situation is holding you back, start making an exit plan. You are not a tree. You don't have to stay rooted in a place that's killing your potential. Change doesn't happen overnight, but small steps toward a better environment can change everything. The harsh truth, you will become what surrounds you. You can't outwork a toxic environment. So if you feel stuck, uninspired, or unmotivated, stop blaming yourself and start looking at what surrounds you. Is your space set up for focus or filled with distractions? Are the people around you lifting you up or pulling you down? Is your daily routine reinforcing success or keeping you in the same cycle? If you don't like the answers, change something. Because if you don't take control of your environment, it will take control of you. At the end of the day, no one is coming to save you. No amount of motivational videos, self-help books, or Monday mindset quotes will change your life if you refuse to change what surrounds you. Your environment is shaping you every single day. Whether you realize it or not, it's either pulling you forward or holding you back. There is no middle ground. So the question is simple. Are you going to take control of your surroundings, or are you going to let them control you? You don't have to make massive changes overnight. Start small, clean up your space, cut down on distractions. Distance yourself from people who keep you stagnant. Put yourself in places where you have no choice but to grow. Because if you do nothing, nothing changes. If this hit home for you, don't just nod your head and move on. Take action. Even if it's just one small change today. That's it for today. Now go change something.